Hello all and welcome to the official FanTeam podcast brought to you by FanTeam, the biggest daily fantasy site in Europe. My name is Andrew and today I'm joined once again by one of the most successful fantasy football managers around. It's the FPL General, Mark McGettigan. Great to have you back on, Mark. How's it going?
Good. Things are a lot better since we last spoke. Had our successful victory finally in FanTeam. So yeah, things are good. Enjoyed the last couple of days as well. Stress-free from FPL. It was a hectic schedule. I know it's going to be hectic again for the next few weeks, but it was nice to have a weekend where there was just one game and not too many red arrows.
So for those who didn't see, so Mark was our guest for the Gameweek 18 Weekly Monster, and he proved yet again that he is one of the best fantasy managers in the world as he romped home to the €5,000 win in the 50,000 Monster. And he also bagged second place in the 5,000 Monster for a further €500. Mark, many congratulations. What a week for you. We were kind of messages it got towards the last game thinking, oh my goodness, you're in fourth, you've got a chance of winning the whole thing. And then obviously you actually won the main event, €5,000 and another 500 for the other tournament. How did it feel?
Yeah, it took a couple of days to settle in, really. To be honest, I'd forgotten I'd put in a team. I put in two teams. I'd forgotten I put in two teams, and then it came to Monday, or maybe it wasn't a Monday. It was a Thursday night. Actually, there was one game left, the Crystal Palace Arsenal game, and I got a message from someone saying you're in with a shout of winning, and I says hardly. So I looked at the leaderboard, and I think it was fourth or fifth,
Yeah.
and I knew I had no Arsenal players, and they were home to Crystal Palace. So said surely there's a lot of people in this top 10, top 20 who've got Lacazette, Saka, these kind of players. And I looked through a few teams and there was very, very few Arsenal guys. So when you're waiting on Joel Ward to bring you $5,000, it's a sweaty 90 minutes. My wife was sitting beside me on the sofa and it was about half time and she knew I was more agitated than usual watching a game and she says, "What's wrong?" And then I had to tell her, "Look, we could win a few bob here tonight." But I said, you're probably just going to have to go upstairs for the second half because you don't want to be sitting beside me. I was just waiting for the Crystal Palace clean sheet. There was one point where Holding went up for a header from a corner, and I was sure it was in the back of the net. If he scored, I wouldn't have came first. So, yeah, looking back, how did I win it? You say, one of the best FPL managers in the world. I would say one of the luckiest as well, looking at this one. It was a game week. I went for 5 defenders, and there was only 8 goals in the 6 games altogether. So, the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Son, who I didn't have, were quiet. I went for Cavallero, who was playing Spurs. He wiped out the Spurs clean sheet. I didn't have any Spurs defenders either. So everything's just kind of aligned for me. That's what you're hoping for in a daily fantasy game, that you get one or two game weeks like that over the course of the season.
There's no massive scorers there, is there? It's just a consistency because there's not one player individually that scored, over 8 points there. Well, apart from your keeper in Ramsdale, but other than that, the scores 8.5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 4, 7. De Bruyne got 8, Rashford got 6. You even managed to stick McGoldrick in there for a 2 point and still managed to kind of win. So in terms of the profile of this team and strategy and tips for players moving forward here, obviously this is a bit of a one-off team. We understand that, but do you think that 5-3-2 and potentially a case for spreading your funds firmly around your team rather than focusing on star players is something that could work moving forward as well?
Yeah, I think it's kind of related to how I play FPL anyway. I've always kind of favored the more balanced approach,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what this team shows you, number one, is that if you looked at that team and before you looked at the leaderboard, I would have said no chances that winning because
Yeah.
75.5 points is not massive. But then, like I said, it was a low scoring game week. And what surprised me most was that I won it. Like you said, no player scored more than 8 points.
Mm.
And I think that just shows you, if you don't have to have the stars of the game week. That if you've got one or two stars and the rest of your guys don't pull their weight, you're not going to get very far. So you are looking at trying to get points from probably 9 or 10 of your picks, which I got here. I think Zaha and McGoldrick probably the only two players who let me down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and I like the 5-3-2. I think what we'll see when I put up my team for the next tournament, I think I've gone 5-3-2 again without really thinking about it. But I think at the moment, a lot of the games are quite poor quality. I think we're seeing more clean sheets. Players are exhausted, teams are exhausted. So I like the defensive picks at the moment.
And just to mention the safety net, so we mention this every week. The safety net feature, which is unique to FanTeam. We've said it every week. It's such a brilliant feature, and it was that with Ward. So who was your initial pick instead of Ward?
Yeah, it was Van Aanholt.
Right.
So I knew Van Aanholt probably wouldn't play, but that's what I like about the safety net. You can take the chance on someone like Van Aanholt, because if he does start, a lot of other people won't pick him because they don't think he's going to play. And you've got the safety net. Then Joel Ward comes in and becomes one of my favourite FPL players of all time now.
Absolutely incredible. Who would have thought that Joel Ward would be the man who you're kind of egging on to win, this massive amount of money? Absolutely superb. And Ramsdale, who I know, kind of personally, so you held Ramsdale in Fantasy Premier League and a couple of other games all through the season. I don't think he's got barely any clean sheets, if any at all. You take him out of your FPL team, you pick him in this, and he comes up as your highest scoring player. I just love the irony there.
Yeah, it was. I think when we did the video for this one, that I think I had Darlow in goal in that Sheffield United Newcastle fixture, and we both talked about slight doubts over Dubravka.
Yeah.
Because Bruce was talking up Dubravka again. So in the end, I think I had Yedlin as well. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to step away from Newcastle and I'll back the home team in Sheffield United. I said it'll be typical first clean sheet of the season, so hit him at the right time.
Just awesome stuff. I mean, I can kind of look at the team. I look at your name at the top of the leaderboard, €5,000. I know we ask this every week, and I ask you every week, Mark, if you won, what would you spend the money on? Mark, now you've won, what are you going to spend the money on? Have you got any thoughts for it yet?
No, I can't just give you a Mickey Mouse answer. Actually,
no, exactly.
To be honest now, so yeah, like I said, unfortunately, my wife found out during the Crystal Palace game that I was going to win, so she knows now, so it won't last long. I think we've already spoken. I think a few home improvements, a new front door, a couple of windows, so very exciting stuff. It is. She's turning 30 in February. She's got a big birthday, so at least I'll be able to spend a little bit extra on her now for that.
Sorted, mate. So all the kind of chat about going to Vegas and all this stuff, you're buying a new front door and some home improvements. Absolutely fantastic. But well done, mate. Absolutely superb. So pleased for you. Okay, so for our YouTube watchers, please remember to click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and to press the like button if you enjoy our content. So our feature tournament for this podcasting video will be the Gameweek 20 Midweek Monster, which has a prize pool of a massive €50,000. We'll be running through the game week's applicable fixtures and sharing our entries with you. I'll be keeping a special eye on Mark's entries after his success a couple of weeks ago. So our watchers and listeners are aware what it is. It's very similar to the free hit chip in Fantasy Premier League, where you basically pick the best 11 players for the game week that you think will score the most points. So just a brief rundown of the rules. You build a squad of 11 players. You must include at least one goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders and 1 forward. You can select up to a maximum of 3 players from any one Premier League team. This is a Game Week 20 contest only. There will be no wild cards or player price changes. You have a budget of 105 million to build your 11-man team, and you can make unlimited changes right until the deadline of the kickoff. You pick a captain and a vice captain. Your captain will score double points and your vice replaces him if your captain doesn't play. The safety net applies. So as we mentioned earlier, and this is what helped Mark scoop the loot, if one of your player picks doesn't start, he will be replaced in the lineup by a player lesser in value than he in that position, and player prices will not change. So for those watching now on YouTube, the point scoring matrix on screen, as you can see, is very, very similar to the season-long FanTeam game and indeed the Fantasy Premier League game. Mark, how easy have you found it adapting your fantasy knowledge, your years of experience over different games to these FanTeam Weekly Monster games?
I found it quite easy because I think most of us who are serious fantasy managers for any number of years, even if you've only been playing for 2 or 3 years, you're doing your research during the week anyway. You're listening to your FPL podcasts, you're doing your own stats, looking at numbers. So I find when I log into FanTeam on a Friday evening or a Saturday morning, whenever it may be, I don't need to do anything because it's all in my head. So it's a matter of just applying it and building an 11 with the information that I've picked up during the week. And obviously taking into account press conference news on a Friday and stuff like that. So yeah, it's seamless, really. It's very, very similar. But I like how it's different as well. It gives you that little bit extra enjoyment over the weekend. You're looking at different players. If one player doesn't do well for you in your FPL team, at least they can win you a few bob and FanTeam's. So yeah, it's a nice game to play alongside FPL.
Completely agree. So there are 3 full-round Monster tournaments every game week. This week, one has a prize pool of €10,000 with a guaranteed first prize of €1,000, which you can enter for as little as €2. For this week as well, there is also a free entry available to this competition for any new FanTeam users. If you do fancy seeing what all the fuss is about, head to fanteam.com, register and play that tournament for free. There is also a high roller tournament if you want to play for big money. Our feature tournament for this podcast is the €50,000 prize pool game with a guaranteed €5,000 first prize for just a €20 entry, as Mark knows all too well. The teams that we pick and share can be used across all Monster tournaments. Just a reminder to enter all FanTeam contests. You must be over 18 and be gambleaware.org. For UK-based FanTeam players, you'll also see that you also now have the option to deposit, play and withdraw with pound sterling rather than in euros. So for this game week, all 10 Premier League matches for this competition are applicable, which are Crystal Palace versus West Ham, Newcastle play Leeds, Southampton play Arsenal and West Brom play Manchester City. They're all on Tuesday the 26th. On Wednesday the 27th, we've got Burnley against Aston Villa, Chelsea host Wolves, Brighton play Fulham, Everton play Leicester, what looks like a really good game. Man United then play Sheffield United. And then on Thursday evening, Spurs take on Liverpool. So a full roster of games, and every player in the Premier League is available for this particular midweek monster. Mark, what stands out for you there in terms of the fixtures?
Yeah, first of all, it's nice to have all 10, because I know sometimes we only have maybe 8 or 9 fixtures. Yeah. So it's nice to have all 20 teams. Probably adds a little bit more variance to it this week and variety in teams. So I think straight off the bat, there's a few games I'll target and there's a few I'll avoid. So I'll be targeting teams who I think are going to win, basically. Players from those teams. Leeds against Newcastle. Newcastle are dreadful these days. So I think I'll have at least 2 or 3 Leeds guys. Obviously, the Manchester clubs both have good fixtures. Yeah. Not too many teams this week for me, I think. Probably a spread of 4 or 5. Maybe just one player from a few random teams then.
Yeah, I agree. I found it quite hard to choose a team this week. I always find that when a couple of teams have got really nice fixtures, all their players are priced accordingly, right? And if you want 2 or 3, like this week, Man City and West Brom and Man United and Sheffield United are probably a couple of the games, we really look to target. But obviously, all their players within and the concept of the game are quite expensive, and there's a lot of tight games. I found it hard this week. If you think Palace and West Ham, maybe West Ham might edge it, but Palace have tightened up recently. Newcastle and Leeds, you would probably expect Leeds, but Newcastle have got to turn a corner soon, haven't they? So and Leeds at the back are not the best either. Southampton and Arsenal, at the moment are probably very, very close in terms of form. Burnley and Villa both tight at the back. We're not going to expect many goals in that one. Wolves and Chelsea, as you mentioned. So it looks like that Lampard will be leaving Chelsea in the next day or so. So that one's very hard to call. Wolves are, a slightly improving. Chelsea are off form. Brighton and Fulham. Fulham have improved massively, and Brighton have been playing well recently as well. Everton, Leicester, what a game that'll be. I think that game is going to be a fantastic game to watch, but who do you pick on either side? It's really, really tough. And Spurs and Liverpool as well, it's really, really hard as well. Liverpool have been off form, but Spurs don't tend to score a lot of goals as well. So yeah, it has been tough. And moving on to your team then, Mark, are you able to run us through your team for our podcast listeners with a little bit of commentary on your picks?
Yeah, so like you said, it's a tricky week in terms of fixtures. So I think that's reflected in the team I've picked here. I've got, first thing you'll see is triple Man City because they play West Brom, and then there's triple Leeds in there because they faced Newcastle. I know Leeds were very disappointing in the last game week, but I expect them to come back. I think the fact that they're actually playing away will help them because their pitch was absolutely dreadful for the last couple of games. So I think if the surface is better at St James's Park, they should put in a good performance because, like I said, Newcastle have been pretty poor recently. So the City triple up, going for Cancelo's in here, should have a lot more attacking returns. When he plays, he's a machine fantasy-wise, and hopefully before long we'll see that reflected in his points. He's got the armband in this, actually.
I can see, wow.
Probably a slightly brave move if he was benched, but I think if he starts, he could go big in that one. So captaincy is on him. It's not locked in on him. That could change. Triple leads then. Dallas and Ealing gone for the two defenders there as well. Fancy a clean sheet. We know those two guys are capable of attacking returns as well. Bamford up front hasn't done much for us recently in fantasy, but I back him to do well against Newcastle. Bruno Fernandes kind of picks himself. I probably expect him to see him in your team as well when you reveal it. It's just great fixture, great captaincy option. He's got the vice captain, so he could take that from Cancelo before the weekend. Great free kick to win that game against Liverpool as well during the week. And then the rest of the team, Lookman, just really impressed by him recently. Really good statistics. I think it's a good fixture for Fulham. I didn't mention Bernardo Silva, actually. Just budget-wise, I couldn't afford any of the more expensive City guys. He was the cheapest of the midfielders, who I think will start and could step up now with De Bruyne out.
I was going to say, I think he's a nice pick on his own merit, and I also think that he won't be that highly owned as well. So, in terms of looking to win the whole thing, as you said, you sometimes need someone a bit different, but he's got that thing of being a bit different, but also a really good kind of pick in his own right, didn't he, I think?
Yeah, and he's a kind of player that he kind of screams captaincy to me as well in this daily fantasy game. He's kind of, over the years playing, you look at leaderboards and it's often that kind of player, Bernardo Silva. Not many goals this season, not many attacking returns, but then he can, if you catch him on a week where he gets 15 or 16 points and not many people have him, he can do very well. So he's in line for captaincy as well. Cresswell's in there, so I had to go for a very cheap goalkeeper. So Johnson's in there. He's a good keeper. So if City do have plenty of shots on target, which they have been having recently, he should rack up plenty of points. Wood is another player who won't be picked by many because he's not having a great season, but we know he's capable, and he's probably on penalties as well. And yes, Aston Villa kept a clean sheet in the last game, but I don't rate them as highly defensively maybe as other people do. So I think Wood could get something there.
Looks a really good team and a very familiar team, actually. So just going to look at my team. I think it's not man for man, but I think we've certainly got 6 or 7 the same. But I like it that my thinking is kind of, on the same wavelength as your thinking. So I've also gone for Johnston in goals. As we say, these keepers, they're the cheapest keepers in the game, cheapest players in the game every single week. But because of the amount of saves they make, they tend to get 2 to 3 points every week, which for 4.4 million for me is more than worth it, and it's set. I've also gone for a 5-3-2. I've gone for Cancelo, but I've also gone for Stones. But I'm thinking actually I may go for Diaz because he's that 0.1 more than Stones. It means if Diaz doesn't start for any reason, it brings it back down to Stones. Whereas going for Stones, I will probably end up with someone like Zinchenko or maybe Mendy or so, or Walker maybe. But I'll think about that. But I do think Stones' aerial threat, is really, really good. And I completely agree with you on Cancelo. He just looks an absolute beast. What a good player, and how he hasn't got more goals and assists this season for fantasy managers. A bit of a travesty, really. I've brought him in to FPL and my main season-long fan team one this week, because I'm just so scared of not owning him. He always seems to have shots on target every game. Looks really, really good. I've gone for double up on Leeds at the back. So I've gone for Dallas and Alioski. I agree with you on Ayling. I think Alioski, if he starts, is probably a bit more attacking. He's got a lot of goal threat. If he doesn't start, I think via the safety net, it goes down to Ayling anyway, so I'm quite happy with that. And I've gone for Luke Shaw. So I've gone for, an expensive chap at the back in Luke Shaw. I think he's been on really, really good form for Man United. He has helped transform that team into how they're playing now. So full of energy. He's on corners on that left hand side as well, on free kicks. So I think that Shaw, is a really good pick this week. I have gone for Bruno. You're right, in midfield. He's also got my armband at the moment. Maybe a bit of a boring armband pick, but I can't see Bruno not getting a lot of points this week, scored that cracking free kick yesterday in the FA Cup. He was rested as well, so he's guaranteed on to start. United are top of the league and playing well. He's going to want to keep up the momentum there. I've also gone for Lookman as well. So what a player he looks. I mean, pace, dynamism, excitement, finishing. He's got it all. I think he's a real superstar of the future.
Yeah, one of the most exciting players to watch in the league at the moment. Yeah, sky's the limit for that guy.
I completely agree. I can see him in the next 2 or 3 seasons. Sadly for Fulham, but moving to a really, really big club and doing really, really well. And my other pick in midfield, so I've gone for Tielemans for Leicester against Everton. It was more of a budget pick than anything. It was kind of what I had left, but he is on penalties with Vardy out. He's a really nice player. He's had quite a few attacking returns actually in the last few weeks. He tends to get a few assists as well. So I think he kind of slots in there nicely. I've also gone for Bamford up front against Newcastle. I think we'll see a reaction off Leeds as well. Bamford always gets, apart from against Brighton in the last game, Bamford always has lots of shots. I think Newcastle will probably afford him quite a few shots, so I expect something from him. And I've gone for Antonio up front. So man in form against Palace. What a player. And the Premier League has missed him. That run he made in the last game against West Brom, where he took it from the edge of his own box. I don't know if you saw it. And he took it to kind of the edge of the other box. And he was just elbowing players out of the way. He's just an absolute beast. Fantastic footballer. Great to watch. So, that's my 11. I think we've got there 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 or 8 players the same there. But, maybe that just goes to show that it is a bit of a tough week, to kind of spread the options around, but fairly hopeful there of a decent showing. Were there any other players you looked at, Mark, who didn't quite make the cut at all?
Well, some of them are actually in your team. There's a couple of picks there that I really like. Tielemans, I kind of overlooked that fixture, as I did with quite a few fixtures, as I mentioned, but I think when I come back to finalising my squad, I will poke around a few of those games that I don't know which way they're going to go, because it's silly just to completely ignore a fixture, because that could be the fixture where you get your 20-point player from. So Tielemans is really interesting because most people will go Maddison and Barnes. They're the guys who are kind of more in form at the moment. They play a little bit further forward. But Tielemans is very quietly having a very good season. Really good player. Has the penalties now as well, which is a huge bonus. I like Tielemans. He might come into my thoughts. And Antonio, what a player. I brought him in in FPL for his 18-pointer. I think 9.8 million in this is quite a good price actually against Crystal Palace. Palace aren't having a great season, not great defensively as they have been previously. So I can see Antonio continuing his goal scoring run there and getting his 3rd goal in 3 games. So Antonio and Tielemans, definitely 2 players I'll be thinking about.
Yeah, I went for Tielemans ahead of Maddison and Barnes. Maddison and Barnes were a bit more expensive this week. I think they hit like 9.7, 9.8. But actually looking at Tielemans, I think he's he could be a nice differential there, because as you say, a lot of people will go for Maddison and Barnes, but Tielemans has had quite a lot of attacking returns in there. So I think even though it's a tough week, quite excited. So I had a couple of cashes in the last few weeks as well. Nothing like yours, obviously, but got my money back and then some. So I'm really, really pleased. So I think we're starting to get into the rhythm now of being able to identify a profile of what team is working well. Absolutely fantastic, Mark, and congratulations again for what I can't stop saying it. I'm stunned. I'm just so I'm so pleased for you.
It's your turn this weekend.
Well, hopefully, unless you jump on Antonio and Tielemans, and then we'll be sharing it by the look of it. But okay, so that is it from us for this episode. All the links are below for all the games we have discussed today. Don't forget, for this week, there's also that free entry to the €10,000 tournament for new FanTeam users. So head to fanteam.com to register and to play that tournament for free. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining me this week. We will have you on again very, very soon, hopefully with another $5,000 in your pockets. You can buy a back door as well as a new front door. Remember that if you liked what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you're listening on a podcast, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. So this podcast will be available as a video on the FanTeam YouTube channel and available as an audio version on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Just search for Official FanTeam Podcast. Our website is fanteam.com. Our Twitter handles are at FanTeamOfficial and at FanTeam_UK. Give us a follow for regular game updates and for entry giveaways for lots of other FanTeam competitions. We'll be back very soon, looking ahead to the Game Week 21 Weekly Monster. Hopefully a few grand richer. The very best of luck for Game Week 20. Goodbye for now.